Good evening. We welcome you here to our regular City Council meeting tonight. We note that we have a full council, full quorum present, and all are in attendance. So it's my opportunity this evening to have an opening ceremony. And I had a unique experience representing the city at a festival of the Cambodian community. They were doing a celebration of the New Year and as well a fundraiser for their new Buddhist temple, and had the opportunity to be there for several hours participating with them. And tonight we have representatives here tonight from that community. We have the president of the Utah Cambodian Community Buddhist Temple, Fanny Nim, Lana Tang, who's one of the directors, and Raymond Auer, I hope I get those close, director of that center as well. But especially tonight, as a part of our opening ceremony, we have one of the monks at the Utah Cambodian Community Buddhist Temple here with us tonight. And he will lead us in a appropriate type of Cambodian prayer or whatever. And so we would invite him, the Honorable Sanath So. And if he would come up here to the microphone.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Jayanto bodhiya mole sakyanang nanti vatano evang tvang vijayo hawajaya sajaya mangkele aparajita palang ke se Pathabipakare apise kesa keputihanang akyapatau pamauta sasna khatang Sop mang kelang sop phapetang sop hotetang sop phatnau sop mohotau jasayat thang brahmacha Rasopatya khenang kaya kamang vicha kamang patya khenang mano kamang panithi te patya khena nikatva nelapathathe patya khene phavato sapamang kelang ria khanto sapate vata sapabuddhi Nupya vena satya sa thai bhavanto te bhavato sapamang kelang ria khan to sapate vata sapathyame nupya vena satya sa thai bhavanto te bhavato sapamang kelang ria khan to sapate vata sapasangkhe Nupya vena satya sa thai bhavanto te nya khataya kaputanang papaka nivirana Paratasa nupya vena hantva te sang upatyave. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that, and the great community. As I was at their activity earlier this year, they have a very large and diverse community from all parts of the state, and they're currently working on their new temple, which is just short distance from the corner of Lancer Way and 3600 West. And they're currently under construction, and wish them well in their endeavors, and we're glad to have them a part of our community. And it was a great experience to be there and see some of the culture that they brought with them here to add to our community. So again, thank you very much for being here. Next on our agenda, I do not note any scout troops here. And so next we go to our minutes. And so for your information, you're all welcome to stay. We will go through our agenda, but people come and go, so as you feel appropriate.
We have another meeting coming up.
Okay.
Is it okay to go?
Yes, that will be fine. Thank you very much for
The
coming.
longer that the reverse over English achievement is also on the list to get the, some kind of the certificate or something.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
Then stay until then. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And next, approval of the minutes from May 13th, 2014. We have a motion on the minutes.
Mayor, move for approval of the minutes of May 13th.
We have a motion before us. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. The motion is properly before us. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes from May 13th, 2014, our regular meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. And next, we go to our awards. Tonight, we have a special opportunity. We have a number of people here who are receiving English Achievement Awards. And so this is a part of our community. We have many individuals who come here, immigrate to our land, who do not speak English and who make the effort to learn the language, not just for work reasons, but to be a part of the community. And we appreciate that. We'll be recognizing a number of those individuals tonight. And as I get my list in front of me, I believe that we're going to have those individuals come forward. And if you will give us your name, and we'll recognize you. We will hold any applause until after everyone has come forward. And so we invite you to come up in whatever order, if there's some way that's been, if you'll come and just make a line and then just come up to the microphone. If you'll come over here to, please come forward.
Mayor, maybe we could ask them to give their name and the country that they originated from. So
Yes, and that's the other thing. Besides giving us your name when you speak, your country that you're from, originally. They're all from the U.S. Okay, I think the line is pretty well made, so we'd invite the first one up.
Hello, my name is Sosarat. I'm from Cambodia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Hello, my name is Juana Laureano. I am from Peru. I lived 3 years in this country. I am very happy to be learning English.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Heinuk from Cambodia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Pukhan. I'm from Cambodia. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name Henry. I'm from Vietnam.
Thank you. Please.
My name is Rome Lim Đăng, Vietnam.
Thank you. Please come forward. In fact, if you want to move up closer, that's okay.
Good day, my name is Winston Suarez. I am from Peru, South America. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Good night. My name is Anarda. My from is Peru.
Better.
Thank you.
My name is Naida Paquita Bedoya. I am from Peru.
Thank you.
I'm nervous. My name is Rosa Maria Vaca. I am from Mexico. Thank you for everything. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Ruth Ortiz. I am from Guatemala. Thank you for opportunity. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Olga Noriega. I am from Mexico. I'm very proud for staying here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Estela and I am from Mexico, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Violeta. My from is El Salvador. And thank you for the opportunity.
Hello, my name is Lucy Pulido. I'm from Guadalajara, Mexico, and thank you for all the opportunities.
Thank you. And so, with that, did we get everyone? Okay. Then perhaps it's appropriate at this point to give them a round of applause. And if you would all come forward and just come right around here in front of the council. We would like to get a picture with all of you.
I'm going to take a couple for the city and then you can take them away. Okay, it's all yours, guys.
Whoever would like to come forward to take pictures, you're welcome to do so. We'll give you an opportunity to do that. If you want to get a better picture from the middle, go ahead. Thank you all for coming tonight. Any comments from the council? Councilman Bueller.
Thank you. As I try to keep score here, I know there were many that were invited that were not able to make it tonight, and we spread this out throughout the year, which is good to coincide with their ending their classes and not trying to have everybody here all on the same day. But I counted 15 who were able to come out today and tell us that they've completed an English course, 15 people from 6 different countries. And I'm just happy to have all of these people in our community and that they're learning English so we can all communicate with each other, that those from Cambodia don't have to learn Spanish to speak with those from Peru and so forth. So I appreciate the opportunity to invite our residents here and to celebrate with them their integration into our community.
Thank you. With that then, we will move on our agenda. The next item on our agenda is our comment period, where we take comments from the public. And we have 4 people who have signed up, and we'll just take them in the order that they are here. And we'll see, as our Mayor Pro Tem mentioned to me, some of you are probably here to speak to one of the public hearing items on our agenda. Is that correct? If that's the case, the public comment, you can comment on anything, and this is meant to be for any who just happen to show up. For ordinances 14, 27, 28, 29, and 89, and also ordinance 1430 and 1490, those will all have separate public comment periods. So if you're here to speak on those, just wave and say, no, I don't want to speak now. Mary Jane Newton, okay. George Newton, same thing. Frank Newton. Russ Tolbert. Okay, all on the same thing, okay. There will be that point where we'll get to in just a few minutes to review those. Okay, then any comments from our city manager or assistant city manager, Paul Isaac?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, then to the council, any comments that you have at this point? I believe that,
I don't know if it's appropriate. We had talked about this a little bit beforehand.
well, I'll just turn to the council. Mr.
Bishop.
Is not able to stay for our meeting, but wanted to speak on one of the items on our agenda. And I told him to do that during public comment. He didn't sign up, but with the council's permission, without objection, we will allow him to do that at this point. But again, we'll keep you down to 5 minutes or less.
It'll be less, I promise. Thank you. And again, I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to change my schedule to be able to be here for the hearing. My name's Eric Bishop. I am a property owner on about 6.31 acres immediately adjacent to the 2 Newton property rezone applications. To the south, my property about 5, 6 years ago was rezoned to R110. As a little background, at the time that I submitted the application for that property, I felt there was a reasonable argument that the property that I own should be zoned R18 because of all the surrounding properties. And frankly, I think there's a legitimate argument that a larger lot doesn't necessarily guarantee a larger home, nor does it really provide, I think trend-wise, it kind of is going against the trend of smaller lots from a water conservation standpoint. So I think those are probably comments that you hear frequently, but at least that was kind of some of the dialogue at that time. The neighbors surrounding the property felt like they wanted to have an R110, and so that's what led to the rezone to an R110. And Mr. Vinson, I see him shaking his head. He probably remember that, even though it's been a while ago. So anyway, I would like to speak in support of the R110 zoning. I feel like with my property being R110, that continuing that, having that continuity over the entire piece not only provides for a better neighborhood, but again would allow all of the property to be viewed as one, not mine at one zoning and then the other property perhaps as something else. Something that I thought about on the way out too, that just for your consideration, I know we all view these things differently, but it seems to me that the closer you can get activity to the decision that you make, the more predictable it is. What I mean by that is when you make a decision tonight, the sooner you can have action taken and control that action, the closer you are to the decision, the more likely you are to have predictability. An example of that in my mind would be, zoning the property R110 with design guidelines and a development agreement ensures or puts in place continuity so that certain things happen within a period of time closer to the decision. Whereas a larger lot, I didn't hear all of the discussion last week, but I heard some discussion about 12,000 square foot lots. I think having the impact of a larger lot, which really is something beyond our control as far as the outcome, how that lot would be landscaped and maintained during various economic conditions, becomes more unpredictable. And I don't know how you view that, but I guess in my mind, the closer, again, when you make a decision, the closer you can control the outcome, the more predictable it is. During this most recent economic downturn, I think one of the things that I noticed, at least as I drove through neighborhoods, is particularly larger properties, and maybe as a general rule, any properties where people were having difficulty, that was one of the first things to kind of take it in the pocketbook, in the sense that people didn't maintain their yards just because of that. So whether that's a legitimate argument for R110 or not, I don't know. I don't know if that appeals to you or not, but again, I think for me, the predictability of having something closer in term via a development agreement, design guidelines is a way to ensure outcome versus a larger lot. Thank you very much, Mayor and council members, for letting me speak in favor of these two applications for a rezone of R110. Thank you.
Thank you. We do try to be flexible. We hear from our citizens. We'll now go through the regular process with our items. Now we'll go.
Can I do my city council comment?
Sure.
Well, we didn't get to that item. I'm not out of order, I don't believe. I just call for the orders of the day then, and you can go back to the agenda, but I believe we're at item 3, which is council comments.
I didn't hear any, so that's why I'm moving on.
No, I just wanted to thank publicly all those that came out and supported the Get Into the River Date. There we had several hundred volunteers from businesses and representatives of West Valley City clean up our portion of the river. So many volunteers, in fact, that we couldn't use them all. And on top of that, the city and Mr. Kevin Condi that was here tonight did a fabulous job with our celebration portion of the river, and very well attended. And we'd just also like to thank Great Harvest Bread for them helping out with the festivities, as well as the Old Time Fiddlers and Bill Barton for providing the music and entertainment. And look forward to a bigger and better celebration next year with West Valley City continuing to lead the way on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Further council comments? Okay. Then now we'll move on to item number 8 on our public hearings. Our first item is ordinance number 14-27, which is the reopening of the fiscal year 2013-2014 budget. And yes, this is opening our budget that will end at the end of this month. And this is to reflect changes from increased revenues and authorize the disbursement of certain funds, some of which have already been through this council and approved, but need to do it overall in the budget. Anything else we need to introduce there? I think that pretty well reflects it. With that then, we will officially open a public hearing input on the reopening of the budget. Is there anyone here from the public to speak to this item? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and we will go to the council for comment or action. Councilman Rushton.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move approval of ordinance 1427, amending the budget.
We have a motion properly before us. A second?
Second.
Councilman Vincent, a second. The motion now is before us. Any discussion to the motion? For those of you here in the public, we have had discussion on these items on our agenda last week in our study session. So we've had comment already. So if we move through them fairly quickly on some of these, you'll understand why. Then, seeing no further comments, we'll place the motion for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. It's unanimous. We now move to item B on our agenda, which is ordinance number 14-28, or this one is amending our municipal code regarding development plan requirements for single-family and two-family dwellings. And we had some good discussion on this last week and even some tonight in our study meeting. So anything else we need to do there? This is a change in our code. Any further comment on this, Mr. Isaac?
Not to clarify that, just
Okay.
to open the
Well, next we will open then a public hearing regarding this application to amend our code regarding single-family and two-family dwellings for their development plan requirements. Anyone here to speak to this issue from the public? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing portion and go back to the council for comment or action.
Mayor,
Councilman Vincent.
based on the conversations that we had during our study meeting prior to this meeting, I would move that we continue this until next week when the staff can bring back some inclusion of some other items that we talked about in our study session.
That motion is in order and is before us. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Motion and a second. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, we'll place that motion for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. We now go on to ordinance number 14-29. And let's see, on this, we do a public hearing for both of the items together. Just on the application. Okay. And all right then. With that, this is to rezone an agricultural area to R110 for property located at 3700 South, 6400 West. Is that correct? Then we will now open the public hearing portion regarding that. Are there people who are here to speak to this item? Okay. Looks like we have about 4 people. And so whatever order you want to come up in, that will be fine. But when you come up, please state your name and your address, and that'll be for our record up here.
Jason Harris, address 12896 South, Draper, Utah. I'm the applicant, and I'm new to the West Valley city format. Is it your preference that I comment first or last, or I'm happy to do it now? Just curious what you guys like.
I don't think there's any problem if it's on a different application, so that would be fine to do them separately rather than.
I'm the person who has applied for this rezone, is what I mean. So, okay. That's a big screen behind me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about this project. Fieldstone Homes is really excited about it and have been working on it for quite some time, both with the landowner in their selection process to get to this point, as well as with the city staff and taking all of their input and encouragement on this project. There are two, I think, main things that I'd like to sort of vet out in this discussion with you tonight. One being the obvious, which is the rezone, and the second would be something that the staff has requested, which has to do with a park at the location. And I'll try to address both of those, although the park part of the discussion is a little bit difficult for me to address just because I'm just an individual landowner among many, which I think is a part of the consideration of what you guys try to do there as far as that goes.
Well, I believe that there's nothing about a park on our agenda tonight. I think that's a totally separate issue. The only thing,
part of his issue, though.
yeah.
It's an issue that staff has brought to us.
Okay, and if you want to comment on that, that's fine, but the issue before us is the rezoning.
That's right.
And staff reminds me that I need to clarify that this is, we refer to our ordinances, but this is application Z1 2014. Okay, that needs to be on the record. Z1 2014. Okay.
Great. I've been given a number. Thank you. All right, so let me comment on the zone, and I think that the comments previously given by Mr. Bishop were appropriate for this discussion. The first thing I just want to point your attention to, and I think this is on, is the historical evolution of this property. We call it the Newton property because the Newton family has been there for quite some time. But in recent years, this first property was rezoned, as you can see, which is the Tom Nixon property, to R110. In addition, the next property in line was the Eric Bishop property, who came up and spoke to you, also zoned R110. And like Eric Bishop, when we first looked at this property, you also noticed that everything around it is R18, and that felt very logical here. But through the encouragement of staff, as we worked through this and saw the pattern that the council had already created here, we also were proposing R110 at this location. And we feel like it's worth noting and stating that that getting to this point, just based on some of the discussion from last week by the council in terms of concern about lot size and property value and things like that, we think that what you have established and are creating in your community is right on. You're looking out for the interests of the community, and I commend you for that. And so for this purpose, we've taken staff recommendation and are presenting to you this R110 plan. When we went before the Planning Commission recently, they unanimously approved this, or recommended to you this zoning as well, and there was zero public opposition and to those things. So as far as the rezone goes, we feel like this is a great fit for the community and encourage you to approve this rezone. The second thing that I want to turn us to, and Mayor, you're correct in that the park is not part of the application, and it wasn't something that we had been anticipating, but it's something that was of concern to your staff and your Parks Department, and so they had approached us. It's what I alluded to earlier, that this is a little bit of a difficult discussion for me, is because when I look at my property, which is just 6 acres of, about a 30-acre plus portion of ground, I don't know where I'm supposed to go with that. And as a result, the staff brought in both Hallmark, which is the applicant that you'll hear after us, and brought us together and said, hey, both of you are interested in doing something here, and we're interested in talking to you about a park. And what a lot of discussion and time went into that. And what we found interesting in this process was this request for a park, although nothing had been done up to this point. With the Bishop property or the Nixon property, neither were requested or required to contribute to a park on those rezones. And in our property, which can be developed just by itself, we expect the same sort of standard applied on this. But when it comes to the overall, we have expressed to the staff that we are interested in working with the other applicant on what we can do to help with the city facilitate an opportunity there. And so I'm just going to point out, and I'll let you guys decide what to do with it, but I'll point it out, and maybe it's even a discussion for the next item. But there are 3 things that we think are a win-win-win here with what we propose to staff regarding the opportunity for the council to have a park. And with one major consideration, and that is, I know that you're out for looking out for the public and the good. And so this is, I think, a good plan where you get to do that for both the neighborhood and the public that you represent. That is, in this collaboration, we basically feel like the city has an opportunity here to receive ground for free, which is a great benefit to you, not having to go out and pay for ground for a park. As a result, as a part of that, in working with the other applicant, we proposed that there be some design flexibility in how we lay out the project as a whole. And there was some reservation when that comment was brought up during your meeting last week, and about what that might mean. And so I thought I'd just spell that out for you just a little bit. Being that when we say design flexibility, we ask that some lots be allowed to be reduced in size in order to give that extra ground for a park. And what I went through and did a little bit of math and worked with my engineer to figure out what that might look like. And essentially, overall, over the whole project, we could still maintain more than 10,000 square feet on average for each lot in the community that would benefit from this new park. There would be what we estimate would be approximately 8 lots that would be around the 8,000 square foot size. But on the flip side, there would be approximately 19 lots that would be 12,000 square feet or more. And the whole rest, the bulk of the rest would be around that 10,000 square foot size. And so I would ask you to consider that. And the third thing being where we proposed to staff that park might be located would be in the northeast corner of the property where the barn currently sits, which the family may be able to speak to kind of the history of the property. They may choose to do that, I'm not sure, but that location of the park would have some historical significance both to the area as well as the family in general. And that, I think, when you look at the city, the development, and the family members who've farmed that land for years and years, would be a win-win-win scenario. And so I just want to put that out there to you because it's something of concern. When you make a decision on that and how you make a decision, know that that's something that we've started collaboration on to help with that for you. But stepping backwards back to the rezone, the things that we've pointed out already, I think stand by themselves in terms of showing you that the most logical move for this property is the R110. And I think that basically sums up my comments. I would just state in closing that like you said, Mayor, in the work session last week, that that the city should treat all the developers who come to this property equally. That's exactly what we're looking for, and we're really pleased to present you with something that is cohesive and works with the surrounding property owners. Do you have any questions for us as the applicant in what we're trying to accomplish and how we're trying to contribute to the city in this way? Yes.
Yeah. Councilman Yun first.
Thank you, Mayor. You mentioned about ground you're going to give to city to use that for park. How many lots you're going to use? I mean, you're going to give it to us?
Well, we estimate, so we're just conceptually have laid this out. We estimate that it'd be around 2 acres.
2 acres
of ground, and without really, by giving that much, not really varying the lot size too much in that regard. And that's pretty much consistent with what the your Parks Department wanted to do in that area as far as size goes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilman Vincent.
Yeah, my question is with the reduction of those lots to 8,000 square foot, having some 12,000 square foot lots, does the overall still meet the R110 requirement?
The only requirement that I anticipate it might not meet, and when I say design flexibility, would only be on a few lots in their lot width.
So that they wouldn't have the frontage that
That's
would
right.
be required.
Currently, the R110 zone requires a 90-foot frontage, and so on a few, in the math that in the layout that we kind of conceptually worked up, there would be 8 of those would have probably an 80-foot frontage, where the rest would all have 90 feet. And just part of one of the concerns, both when we were being selected to develop this site by the landowner, and I know that there are things that you have considered, is how 3-car garages and sizes and square footage and things like that. We can fit a 3-car garage on a 5-foot wide lot and bigger, and so even on some of the smaller lots, we can still meet square footage, garage size requirements and things like that without any trouble. So, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
One other thing that I think this sort of speaks to that I thought I would just show to you, because it's always like in the back of everybody's mind, is who are you and what are you going to put there at the project? And I would encourage you to go to our website, which is fieldstone-homes.com, and look at our product, and so you can get a feel for why even the family members even selected us. This is just an example of our products that we currently build. We actually don't cut any corners. We 9-foot plate standards on our main floors, as well as full hardy all the way around, not just on the front facade. So we take it to a whole nother level in terms of what type of product that we put into our homes. And so I wanted to just give you a flavor of what that looks like. So is there any other comments or questions that you have about this project?
Apparently not.
Great.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, next. On this application, Z-1 2014.
Good evening. I'm Mary Jane Newton Davis. Thank you for the opportunity to meet with you and speak to you tonight. Mayor Bigelow, council members, Mr. Isaac and Ms. McKendrick, and staff. I appreciate being here because as a member of the Newton family, I take my responsibility seriously. I've always taken the responsibility of being a Newton very seriously. We love this property This property has been in our family since the 1870s. My great-grandfather bought this property, and we have been working on it, playing on it, and loving it ever since. Currently, I am, along with my cousins, the fourth generation to enjoy this property. However, there are at this point 7 generations loving this property, playing on it. It's been a terrible decision for us. We're emotionally invested in this property, and we have all, each and every one of us, been emotionally invested in the community, our neighbors, the city. We have participated in every way that we could. But we knew that we could not continue to farm this property. Our oldest cousin will be 85 this year. We are not far behind. We knew we would have to do something different. I searched diligently for a way to preserve this property as a working farm. The home that sits on the property was built for one of Brigham Young's daughters. We have treasured that house. Our parents were born in that house. Our family dinners were held in that house. We still hold our family activities in the barn. We just did last weekend. So, my endeavors were in vain to protect the property as a working farm. I had 2 city mayors from West Valley City come out and view the property. I had the Parks and Recs people come out and view the property. I had 2 county mayors, 2 different county mayors have come out. I have begged and pleaded for money. It's not there, and it's not going to come. My cousins and I decided that we would then look to have the property developed in the very most upstanding and professional way possible. We started this process almost a year ago. It was grueling, it was taxing, and it was emotional. Very emotional. I'm emotional as I speak to you because we want the best for our family farm. We want the best to represent the Newton name. It's our history. It's who we are. And we are part of your city as well. We interviewed countless developers and investors. There were many investors that approached us. We spent hours every single weekend and some evenings after I got home from school. I was reviewing documents and talking to folks on the phone. We felt that we came up with the very best scenario. We had 2 developers that stood above the rest. We were particularly impressed with Hallmark's ability to build a sturdy home, one that would not only blend well with neighboring homes, but that was built well with all the highest standards that builders adhere to. It was also visually appealing. We spent a lot of time with them, and we're grateful to them that they would spend their time with us and that they would work so hard to develop a plan that would work well to not only fit well with the community, but upgrade the community. That is what we want for West Valley City. Again, we're 7 generations in this city. We want only the best. And so I want to thank you for your endeavors to support us in our project to not only remain stable as a family in our decisions, because that was our #1 decision, that we would stay together as a family, that we would agree on everything, and most importantly, that we would love each other and give something back important to our community. So I thank you for your time and your willingness to support our application along with Fieldstone and Hallmark. Thank you so much. Is there any questions I can answer for you?
Seeing none, thank you. Next.
Good evening. My name is George Newton, 530 Imperial Drive, Morgan, Utah. And I would like to address you just on the zoning for the R110. I know that's, I didn't know exactly what to say. Let me clarify one thing that Mary Jane had a typo on there. It was Fieldstone that developed all this for us. And so that said, I'd like to support the R110 concept. This is based on me putting my foot in my mouth years ago. I lived in Morgan, and I lived on a stub street, and there was like, 8 houses on that street. It was wonderful because there was no through traffic. And that went on for a long time, and then Morgan grew a little bit, and so they put the street down tied to the other thing, and they made the lots smaller. And I said to my wife, and she has not let me forget it, that they'll put smaller houses and it will be a less desirable neighborhood because of that. And in the end, I had to eat my words, because what happened is things had changed from when I was growing up, and I grew up on 6400 West there, and we had all that farm ground around us, and that's what I liked. And in my head, that's what I thought everybody liked. But the people who moved in there didn't want to spend the money for the property. They wanted to put the money into the house, because when you go to build a house, you only have so much money. And they decided we'd rather have a smaller lot and build a bigger house, and they did. And so those homes that are down my street are bigger and nicer than mine. And with that, do you have any questions you'd like to ask me?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next.
Well, Mayor and council members, my name is Frank Newton, and I live at 3665 South, 6580 West. I live on the property, and it's being proposed to be developed around me. I grew up there. I've lived 64 years there. Grew up cleaning ditches and hauling hay, and I'm still involved in the farm today. In fact, last week I was out cleaning ditches, and as a kid I hated it. As an adult I love it. And so I think Mary Jane has more eloquently than I can do explained how difficult this decision has been for us. Because I still live there, I intend to live there. I have one of those bigger lots, and I'm paying dearly for all the culinary water that goes onto my lawn to try and keep it green. So as difficult as this is to see the farm developed, I think, as Mary Jane said, they're now currently there between my brother, my sister, and 4 cousins. There are 7 of us that have been involved in trying to make this decision. When we pass on, there will be about 30 of us, and trying to get consensus among even 7 of us has been difficult. I can only imagine what it would be like with 30. And I don't want to, the thing that we have really focused on and has been important to us is, like Mary Jane said, to be united in what we're trying to do, have a quality development with quality homes that would contribute to the neighborhood and increase property values. And from what I have seen, bigger lots don't necessarily apply and mean a better looking neighborhood. Because I see some of the larger lots that are not too far from me, and like I stated earlier, when water is so expensive, and we do live in a desert, we try very hard to keep our lawns green. But when money becomes an issue, you stop watering your lawn, and I don't want to see that. I want to see neighbors that take pride in their homes, and maybe this is a neighborhood that are second homeowners that are buying a second home rather than a first home. Nothing against that, but homeowners that are there to stay and want to be there for a long time. So I'm also in favor of the R110, and we have worked with the developer, and we've indicated to them how important it is to have quality homes, upscale homes that are attracting that kind of clientele. And that's important to us very much. And I thank you for your time, Mayor and council members.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Seeing none, those were the only 4 hands I saw. Was there anyone else that was wanting to speak?
I'll speak on my application. We're the next one.
Thank you. Then with that, we will close the public hearing portion of application number Z1 2014 and bring it back to the council for comment, discussion, or action. Councilman Bueller.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of comments, then I'm going to have a question for staff. First of all, I appreciated when developers listen. We mentioned and talked about in our study meeting last week that our general plan proposed or anticipated a park in this area, and as we're letting the land be rezoned and changing things. Yes, we didn't catch the first 2. I don't know when those were done, but we're trying to not wait until everything's built out and say then, oh, now where are we going to put the park? So I appreciate you coming back with the park concept. My concern is this, and also let me say, I don't really have a problem if we're developing a bunch of lots of some are 8,000 and then twice as many are 12,000. Okay, it's not, each lot has to be the same exactly for me either. But the issue for me is this: we don't have a plat for us to approve. This is a zoning approval, and if we approve the zoning, then the property could be sold, you could pass away, it could be inherited, it could go on to other people. We've approved the zoning. How do we guarantee the park when it's not even part of this 6 acres that we would be rezoning? That's my question for staff.
Great question. So we could, as part of the development agreement.
And we have someone speaking somewhere.
Sorry. Steve Pastor from the Community Economic Development Department.
Thank you.
We could address the park issue through the development agreement. We have done that in the past with projects that are reviewed similar to a planning and development or PUD, where we would essentially address the amount of ground that would be dedicated to the city and address the overall density of the project. Or, Mr. Harris mentioned items like some reduced lots and some reduced lot widths. We could address those kinds of things in the development agreement.
So then would we want to continue this so we could redevelop the development agreement?
So Steve Pastor again. If the council is amenable to the suggestion as far as taking the dedication of a park and allowing some flexibility on lot size, yes, I would suggest that we continue this so we can address that proposal in the development agreement and actually get that in writing.
And then how do we include in a development agreement for this application that a park will be built on somebody else's property pursuant to a different application?
So the acreage here we're dealing with, this first parcel is about 16 acres. The other parcel is, we'll be considering next is about 18 acres, so roughly the next parcel is about 3 times as large. One approach could be that where we're looking for 2 acres, that essentially half an acre could come from this parcel and an acre and a half could come from the other parcel. But again, we could explore that as we visit with the developer and try to work out the development agreement details. But that's maybe one approach of how we could do that.
And then I guess my last question, Mr. Pastrick, is 2 acres an appropriate size for a park in this area?
Yes, sir. We did discuss that with our Parks Department, and that was their recommendation, was 2 acres.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, further comments? Councilman Vincent.
I too, like Councilman Bueller, I'm not really concerned about the 8 and the 12 as long as we have the overall mix is the 10,000 square foot lot. What I'm concerned about, maybe we'll hear this on the next application, is that we're requiring one property owner to provide the space, and maybe we'll hear in the next application that the other developer is contemplating making some changes, but without having that knowledge right now that I don't have, I don't know if we can treat this one developer differently than we may the other developer. But again, the concept, I'm not opposed to the concept.
Thank you. Mr. Isaac, do you have some additional feedback?
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify one thing. It would be if council wants to go this direction, it would be to continue both the zoning change and the redevelopment agreement. Thus, meaning the same thing would apply to the next application as well.
I do have a few comments that I would like to add as well. I weighed in fairly heavily on this in our previous meeting. It was interesting when you showed the map up there and all the homes, and I looked at that, and there were a couple of things that struck me, and they re-emphasized the concerns that I had in the previous meeting. First, when I look at that, I say everything's filling in homes. We're losing our open space, and it's just going. And this is not the only place. My comments apply to all the land that we have left to develop. Second, I noted the more homes we put on there, for the same size of streets that we have, we're going to increase our traffic significantly. If that becomes a problem, then we have to go back and go to homes and say, we've got to take part of your front yard because we have to expand 6400 West. We've got to do something to carry the traffic. So we have many issues that are confronting us as a city that affect the overall quality of the life in our city, not just for a few pieces of property in one section. And I'm struggling with that. I thought it was interesting, you talked about the history, but once this goes into homes, the history still exists, but there is no trace left of it in the homes. It's gone. The farm will be gone. And much as I would like to have that, and apparently there were discussions on that, but it sounded like it came down to a question of how much money would be paid for that, and the family couldn't or wouldn't do anything with that. That's typically what drives a lot of development, a lot of families. Not all the families agree. There has to be some benefit that comes out to families. So I don't know where the history played into that. But I also don't understand, they say they want a quality home. A quality home can be built on R18, R110, R112. Quality of the home doesn't change. I also heard about watering, and as I walk around the city, I assure you, There's no difference between people not watering their lawns on small pieces of property. In fact, it is more common than it is on larger pieces, by far. And that is my personal observation, having walked through tens of thousands of homes. Well, not through their homes, but in front of their homes. So I'm trying to figure out what's the right thing to do. Number one, I personally do not feel bound by what previous councils have done. I've been on the council for 5 months. I will be bound by what this council decides tonight, but I also feel that I can express opinions, and as I look at what's left in our city, there is so little left, and I look at how many homes we have in our city that are small lots, R18 and smaller. There are a huge number, a disproportionate number of those. Larger lots are less frequent. I can only go by what I hear from people who want to stay. Many of them do want something a little nicer, something a little bigger. That being said, I made no motion, and certainly won't here since I can, regarding lot size. I just mentioned these items to give some perspective to the fact that our overall city plan, I believe, is more important than an individual plat or an individual lot. And I think we have to be very cautious as we look at what's left in our city. We approved many developments, and there were people years ago who approved developments on very small lots. And I've been in some that they can't be 6,000 feet. I mean, they are just right next to each other. So I just mentioned those as a concern that I have as we look at these two developments tonight and all future ones that will come to this council while I'm serving in the next 3.5 years. The same concern will exist. It's limited. We don't have a lot of open space. We don't have homes that are spread out to develop that roomy concept, or to have homes where people can move up to, including lot sizes. So although you've raised some good issues, and I understand the emotional attachment that people have to properties, I have it with mine. I've invested a lot in it. But I have to remove myself from that and step back and say, overall for our city, with what little development we have left, what do we do with it? How do we treat it? And what is best for our city? So I just add those comments into the discussion so that it lends some perspective as to where I am. And any comments or action from the council? Councilman Rush.
I'd just like to make a comment to add a little bit to this before we get down to what course of action we want to take on it. I know these zoning decisions can be very difficult and very tough, and sometimes involve family and extended families, and emotions can get on it. But I think the good thing about it, at least for me personally, is it's good to see the Newton family come out today and talk about the community and how much they love and appreciate where the city's been and where it's going. And so, Mary Jane, George, and Frank, thanks for coming out tonight and being an integral part of West Valley City. We definitely won't be able to achieve our goals as a city without good people like you helping us along the way. And I know sometimes that jumping through the hoops of government can be tough and strenuous. And so I just encourage you to keep that up, because I feel that this one is so close that we have maybe a couple questions that need some answers too, but it's definitely along the lines of what we see coming forward. I think as a community, I appreciate this map that was brought up, because I think the one thing that every single member of the city council says when they're either running for office or first get elected to office is, I'm not going to plan this city piecemeal. And then we see this map show up, and it's kind of puzzle piece here and puzzle piece here and puzzle piece there. And I can't speak to why or the reasoning, the good reasons, maybe the bad reasons of doing it. But it was brought up by the very first speaker, the applicant of, is that hey, I'm only 6 acres on this, and kind of being anchored down, for the rest of it. And really, if I had the magic wand or the DeLorean time machine, go back and say, those other 2 pieces should not be R110, and especially to the point of Mr. Bishop before he left, it is sometimes having the immediate action guarantees the certainty, and now that it's sat, it's really left a lot of uncertainty on it. And so, I think one way that would be probably the fairest way, and the way that nobody would want to do it, would be to go back and say, you know what, we're starting over, and it's all agriculture, and we're going to get the city's plans, the road plans, the park plans, and everything laid out before we move forward. So the person that's holding 6 acres and the one that's holding 20 acres is all treated fairly. But as I said, I don't think anybody wants to go down that road. And so I think that there's ways that we can, get to achieving the goals of the family, the developers, the home builders and future potential buyers, and the city plans going forward. And that, I said it's very close.
Thank you. Councilman Yoon.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it very much. Thank you, Mary Jane. I think you have very convincing argument. You brought about the history of your property. Very interesting. Since 1870, and very emotional, involved in the family, and appreciate that very much. Just go back to Mayor Ron Bigelow. He mentioned about the traffic, and we don't have that much land for the city, and that we concern, and I think that my concern too, because it's gonna be go back to Steve Vincent about the fairness between one developer to our developer. To me, is that a lot for 8,000 square feet and the other 12 for 12. I think it's no big deal to me, but concern about is the fairness with our developer here, and also something about our city, how to utilize for the small lands we have left in our city, and that's our concern.
Thank you.
So,
Councilwoman Lang.
as in our previous application that we continued because there was questions, comments, on this one, I think we're getting close, but I don't think we're there. And in all fairness to this developer, I don't think it's fair to deny it. So I would like to make a motion at this time to continue this application. Oh wait, we're not, are we at the?
Yes,
Are we
that
done?
motion is in
All right.
order. That
So-
motion is in order.
I would like to make a motion to continue this application and give the developer and the landowners some opportunity to work with the next application. It's hard to separate them, to work on the comments that have been here tonight with the park and lot sizes, and with that. And do we need a date specific?
If you want to
Fix it.
continue it, the appropriate motion would be to continue to a certain time.
Well, I'm not sure we can just, I would rather leave it open so that the staff and the developer has time to work it out so that it comes back a complete.
I'm going to ask staff for some clarification.
Okay.
Okay, your motion is there, and we're just going to hold it for a second.
Yeah, just to continue it to a no date certain.
That is
That'll
an
give us
acceptable
time to
motion.
get everything done.
Now, once we do that, in order to help the developers and those participating in it, will there be notice more than just the city council agenda notice? Or will we have to go back to anything else and start a new timeline?
We would close the public hearing, so unless you wanted to open the hearing again, we can make sure that the developers get notice that it's on the council agenda.
I don't think you'll need another public hearing, correct?
No, but I was referring to the fact of notice, that there's some of the, and I'm still learning, so I don't know which ones require more than a few days' notice that it's on the city council agenda. For example, with other neighbors on the rezoning, do they have to be noticed? Okay. Then the motion is in order.
Second.
We have a second. The public hearing portion of our meeting has closed. So we will take that as a motion. The motion is properly before us to continue this to a future meeting, and that has been properly seconded. Discussion to the motion.
Sorry, I didn't hear the second.
Oh, Councilman Bueller. Okay. Seeing no further discussion, we'll place the motion for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. That has been continued to a future meeting. By that action, that we did that on ordinance, or on ordinance 1429. But we have 1489, which is the development agreement, which is separate. Okay. So that one was continued. So, to the council.
Mayor, I move that we continue Resolution 14-89 to a date to coincide with Ordinance 1429 and allow staff and the developer an opportunity to develop a development agreement that would conform to whatever modifications to the Ordinance 1429 we might be brought at that time.
Thank you. That motion is properly before us. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Discussion to the motion? Seeing none, we'll place that for a vote. All in favor of the motion to continue resolution number 14-89 to coincide with the future meeting with ordinance number 14-29, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. Let's continue. Next we go to application number Z-2-2014, which is item D in this section of our agenda, 8D, which is has been filed by Hallmark Homes and Development to change from rezoning change from agriculture to R110. This is for property located at 3654 South, 6400 West. And I think we all understand where that is at. So we will open the public hearing portion of this discussion. Are there people here to speak to this one? At least one I knew, two. So if you would come forward and state your name and your address.
My name is Russ Tolbert. I'm with Hallmark Homes. My address is 8608 SEMA Drive in Sandy, Utah. If you could bring up that graphic again, it certainly helps in the discussion. First of all, I have just a little confusion about how this is going, and maybe you could clarify this for me. We have a zoning application for the property as one agenda item, and then we have a development agreement as another agenda item. So my question is, if the zoning is appropriate for the property, I'm not sure why we can't approve that R110 zoning, because it's appropriate for the property, and then address the other issues with the development agreement, which we feel like we are still massaging based on a lot of the discussion. So that's why I'm confused. The other question is at the very beginning, you stated that the park was not an agenda item, and we've kind of centered the discussion around the park and not the appropriate zoning of the property. So maybe just a little clarification on that first.
Councilwoman Lang is anxious to answer your question, and so we're going to turn the time to her.
I can clarify why I moved for a continuance, because without the park, I would have made the motion for denial for an R110. I do not think that an R110 is appropriate in that area. I believe personally that an R112, but I am willing to work with the development agreement and with both properties to work on a park, and then an R110 may be more appropriate in my view. That was the reasoning for my motion and continuing instead of denial at the zoning stage.
Okay, so in your opinion, you want the park and R112?
No,
Just R112?
R112, but I am willing, since the park was brought up and there was willingness to donate property for a park, then I was more in tune to continue and listen to the R110 argument. But without the park on the table, it would have been for me a denial and an R112 in the future looked at.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Just as a clarification, not all of us were feeling the same. I want R112 anyway, and a park, and more open space and trails. Yeah, I'm not going to get them all, but certainly I will, as an elected official, I have the opportunity to express those opinions. You had more that you wanted to say on this?
Well, along the same lines, I think it was very well-spoken and eloquent by Mr. Harris as well as the Newtons in explaining the condition and the reason for this R110 zoning. I mean, it falls within all the guidelines that the city has presented for the master plan in this area. I know that the park is not an issue, but we feel like it's a win-win to be able to have this park, to get some of this open space that you're after, which if the city has control of that, it will be landscaped, it will be well taken care of, and it will be an amenity for the community to use, which would, in my opinion, override bigger lots, that you do take the chance of people not maintaining them, because it does cost a lot of money to water a lawn on a 12,000 square foot lot. You're not guaranteeing it's going to be a well-manicured lot. It could be, just like you stated, Mayor, that you've driven around and you've seen a lot of lots that are smaller and not watered, and big ones not watered. Well, we've driven around and seen a lot of large lots that are stockpiles for RVs in dirt, or just household items that they store along the side of their house or in the backyard because they haven't maintained their lots. So we feel the 10,000 square foot lot minimum, or this zoning, or this hybrid thing that we're working out, is a win-win for both the city as well as the developers in here, as well as what the Newtons want to see on their ground. We have spent a lot of time with the Newtons going over home design and home look, and we presented all that to staff. We've agreed upon certain bullet points in a development agreement for size of homes, exterior material that we wanted to use, slope of roof, shingle styles. I don't want to go down all the list, but we've also been unanimously approved by Planning Commission based on some of those design criteria. So we felt like we've met all of those things. To change it to an R112, I think, does a disservice to the community, because you don't get a park. And what's the object here? Is to have a park or have bigger lots. So we're trying to get a little bit of both. We didn't buy this property in anticipation of a park. Staff brought it to us. We were open to discuss the options for a park, and we feel like we've come up with a pretty good, a win-win solution, like Mr. Harris said, to get the park as well as an average size 10,000 square foot lot, or no more than 3 units to the acre of density, which fits well within all the guidelines that were presented in what is master plan zone. The other point I wanted to make, obviously there's been no public comment other than the Newtons of surrounding people in the area. So nobody is upset in the area about an R110 zoning. So I'm a little bit of a loss if the community's upset about small lots or smaller lots. I think by no show that tells us that the community surrounding this property is very happy with an R110 zoning. That's just something to think about. They were all noticed. They had the chance to come and talk. Usually if people have something to say, which in the Planning Commission we did have some comments from the public, but they were addressed and the people were obviously satisfied because they're not here tonight. Like I said, or like was talked about earlier, I know you're not bound by other councils, but in fairness of how this property is laid out, everything has been zoned R110 up to this point. To change the zoning goes back to a little bit of that piecemeal around the city. It's already been set a precedence with the other 2 pieces, that of Tom Nixon's and Eric Bishop's, to get the R110 zoning. Any questions?
Yeah, I think there are some. So, and they all seem to go up at the same time.
I'm sorry.
Oh. I am. That was a dirty trick somebody played on you.
Okay. And let's just go down the row. Councilman Bueller.
You probably feel like you've answered this because you've alluded to it. I just want to be very clear. You were here present for the previous public hearing and heard Mr. Harris of Fieldstone Homes talk about the development as if the development was his property and your property, and he proposed that a park be placed on your property. You concur with that overall development scheme?
We have worked together to present some ideas to staff to work together as 2 developers. We are competition, but we have met together several times. You know, we do have to look at this as 2 individual properties just based on how we're applying for the zoning. Because he has his parcel under contract, I have the remaining under contract. But we have had several discussions about sharing in this park and how the park would lay out to make the community a lot better in this area, mostly to meet the Newtons' desires, because we're very sensitive to what they want on this property because it has such a history, as Mary Jane explained.
And in addition to discussions, have you reached agreements as to how you would proceed if the
We have
application is
met,
approved?
we have verbal agreements, nothing in writing, because we need to get the zoning in place before we start moving further, because the equation changes with an R112.
Right. I just want to make sure that, you know, we're talking to 2 people about the same thing.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Lang.
So your zoning to me is a little bit more complex because the overall site plan and proposed lots that were given to us included properties that on our
Can you
map,
show that?
Our maps show that they're not all owned by yourself, that there's still a couple blanks that aren't being rezoned, and the overall conceptual plan had those as being in your development. So I don't know if there's still things under contract. So for me personally, if this one gets continued as well, I would like to see, if those are not acquired, how the lots would lay out and how the plots would work. And as with what has been zoned in the past, we have R18, we have R110. Variety is not harmful to the community, R112 would fit in just fine to give more variety for those R18 people who want to move up to the bigger grandma house so that you can have all the grandkids over, the in-laws. An R112 would be a big enough piece of land that all the grandkids can go play in the backyard, not have to be scurried off to a park. Your house can be large enough, you can have a great room to accommodate everyone. So I do not see an R112 being inappropriate to mix in with the R110 and the R18, so that we can have a place for our residents who want to move up and have that space for the larger home, if they need RV parking, so that it doesn't look like all your RVs are parked junky on the side of the house, that you have a nice second garage for the boat or the ATVs and different items like that. So I really truly do not see that R112 is an inappropriate zoning to mix in with this community.
To address, as Jason said, or Mr. Harris, in our layout that we're proposing to have this hybrid type, there would be 19 lots that would be above or around 12,000 square feet. And the remaining would be that, and there would be a park in there too. So when you talk about having the, and he also addressed, and I'm the same feeling, just because you have a 12,000 square foot lot doesn't mean it's going to get a bigger house and all this other stuff. We can still fit all that same stuff on a 10,000 square foot lot. Get the great rooms, get all of that stuff. The bonus here is having a park that all those grandkids can go and play and have fun in with a bigger group of people instead of in a yard. So
outlined, I guess, on that map there is the red, that is what you are proposing on purchasing, and the others that are not acquired, but we're still on the proposed overall, how to get all the lots on the property.
Correct. What we were asked by staff
Correct.
was to present to them, as well as to you, an overall layout of the whole property, even including the pieces that were not under contract at the time. So that's what we've shown to you, is an overall concept, knowing those parcels. We've never tried to say they're part of it. We just did what staff asked us to do, so that you could have an overall concept and see how this would all fit in there.
So if you do not acquire those properties,
We have plans
have a
to,
backup plan of...
we have a backup plan to lay that out.
Okay.
You know, there's also a lot of other issues that has to go. We haven't even been in front of Granger Hunter to figure out the layouts exactly. We've only done concept plans, and it's sometimes hard for us to do a concept because you get it in your mind and you think, well, I saw it this way, and we had to change it based on drainage and other issues that could come up in the design work. So we feel very, you know, we've come together with several meetings with staff to come up with what we feel is a good solution to meet the 12,000 square foot lot on some of them, but some of them are a little bit smaller. But the overall goal here is the city has pinpointed this area for a park, and we're trying to make this work.
I appreciate that. And that's why I'm willing to be a
So,
little flexible with
yeah.
R112.
The decision is park R112. So you might, I would just say, let's think about it. I sound like I'm a little bit of more of an adversarial person on this because everybody else has been a little bit more eloquent than I have been. But I just sit here and I think if I was living in this area, would I want a neighbor with a 12,000 square foot lot or a neighbor with a little bit smaller lot, not much, and to have the use of a park that's well maintained by the city that adds to the history of the area. That's what we're forgetting a little bit, is we've made proposals that will add to the history of this area for the city to have a legacy that could continue for a long time. Just like was stated earlier, you know, once this land's gone, it's gone, and the legacy is gone. What we've proposed is something to keep that legacy going. That's what we presented to staff. And I'm sorry we focused a little bit more on the park than anything, but You know, this zoning, we feel like is within the guidelines that we set, and the park could be an issue that could be worked out at a later date based on the same zoning or the development agreement discussion. Any more questions?
Councilman Vincent.
Just to start by saying I'm fine with the concept, and I'm only hearing two say R112, so I don't think you have to run to R112s. At least I don't know.
Can we take a straw poll?
But anyway, let me just go ahead and say I think the proposal is good. My concern was just the fact that the two developers were talking, and that they were in agreement with how this was going to lay out. And until we have that in the development agreement that we can actually see, then I think that it's appropriate to continue this till that happens. I'd love to see, you know, whenever we build a park or we have a park in the city, there's a long discussion about what are we going to name that park. Well, this is easy. It's the Newton Park. I mean, this is great, and so I just want to make sure before we act that we know that the two developers have collaborated, and that this is reality and not just the concept. So I'm fine with the concept of the two developers, but until we see it actually written in the development agreement, then I'm not ready to move on it. But I like the overall concept.
Thank you. One thing that you should know is Hallmark has the bigger burden of the park. In fact, the way we've shown staff, in fact, all of the property would be off of the parcel we have under contract. And so we have gone the extra mile to talk with Fieldstone because their piece does stand alone all by itself. You know, we have a little bit more obstacles with the piece that we're trying, as you can see on that layout. We need to go around some things. We are working with those property owners. We have had communication with them, but we just have not got that contract signed at this date. But they have not ultimately said flat out no. It's still in the works.
Councilman Bueller.
And just to comment to that, that is why on the previous application, I did not want to approve that subject to a park being built on your property. I think we need to make them mesh.
And that's in the works. As you could get the comment from staff that both of us have been in every meeting together and presented things together to staff.
I appreciate that.
I do have one question. You mentioned that you were doing a legacy project, that was somehow different than a normal subdivision, but not the park. Could you clarify that? What's different?
Maybe I didn't say it very good. The legacy part is this is the Newton property, which has been in their family for a long, long time. So I use the word legacy because this has a lot of history to it for the Newton family. It has a lot of history in West Valley City. Everybody knows the Newton property. Everybody I talk to knows the Newton property. They know about the barn. They know about a lot of things that go over there. So that's why I say legacy. It's not any different than any other development as a design, other than the history behind it. And what we want to do is capitalize on that history and the legacy that has been in that property. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Any further comments? Okay. Then I believe there was someone else wanted to speak to this. Is that correct?
I thought it might be appropriate just because there's a couple of things. Obviously, this has turned to collaboration, which I'm okay with. But Hallmark's project and Fieldstone's projects, they can stand alone and develop. There's access, the zoning that we're asking for, we believe is appropriate. I think my feeling is like his, and I want to reiterate it for his purpose as well as for mine, and that is, I think you can move forward with this zoning, and I think you can have the discussion about what that park might look like if that's something that you want to pursue. But like was discussed in previously, what's before you is not a park application. What's before you is a zoning application, and I'd encourage you to reconsider on that, of tabling these, but moving forward with the zoning, moving forward with the development agreements that are before you, which establish the design standards, and then if you so desire to pursue the park option, like we've discussed with staff and what we asked them to present to you last week, that I don't think got out as well as what we had hoped, was that we are willing to collaborate on the park issue, but I don't think that it's an issue that has to be tied to this, because it's not. It's something that's in addition to. Mayor, I thought it would be appropriate to also address something that I think your staff and your master plan address quite well, and that is the master plan, the road master plan system, the master plan in general. Over time, the city has taken into account the growth that would happen, and they have been accounting for what would need to be done as far as roads and infrastructure. The great thing about infill development like this is that the infrastructure exists, and when development happens, you can take advantage of that. Farmland goes away, but that was also planned for in the master plan, and so those things have been accounted for. I just want to comment, just for the record, Councilman Bueller, that yes, we have collaborated on that park thing, but it's an unknown how that will come together and play out. We've just tried to be good neighbors to each other because we know our applications are in together. But again, the zoning is what we're here for, and I'd encourage you to vote on that. Those are my comments. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Seeing none, we will close the public comment input portion of our agenda on this item, and we will come back to the council. Councilman Rushton.
I don't want to belabor too many of these points, but I do want to, because I think we are pretty close to having a vision of trying to move this forward and get everybody out of here. But I do want to, I guess, touch on a few things that might be questions out there. And Mr. Tolbert, I can't believe how close you and I probably are thinking-wise on a solution, but how we've probably come from exactly two exact opposite situations on this. And I think that, I know for myself, and I think for the rest of the council, I know we're really trying hard to not use the P word as in park, because I don't think we want to say that this zoning is contingent on a park, that there's in a park. It's like we have a plan, and I think what we're really trying to say is that this is an important piece, and yeah, it's going to call for some. We have a baseline, and the baseline is probably in this city now for going forward is R110, and that when anything comes up on it with roads or anything else, if you're just going to line up the roads and try to shove as many lots in as possible, that this city council and this city is asking for creative solutions. We're asking for amenities. We're asking for a different style of houses. We're asking for different lifestyle of houses on this, and we're kind of leaving that up to you. And and that's why I'm not saying, hey, I'm definitely an R112 or I'm definitely an R18 or definitely an R110. I'm just looking for the arguments to come into line up to say, yep, this is why we need to move forward, and R110 absolutely makes sense. I mean, I think in the back of my head, and I'm mostly sure, along with Councilman Vincent here, that the proposal that was brought up on this hybrid of R110 and a little bit of open space here is probably one of those solutions. I don't know if it's the solution. I don't know if it's even the best solution. I don't even know if we need 2 acres of park in this area based off of other things that's happening in this city. But, I am looking for creative solutions and coming in and saying, here's how, we're going to deal with some of these things and some of these questions. And, I hate to even say this because I don't want to derail it, but, I think the barn is a huge amenity on it, and how that could be brought in to make this a one-of-a-kind amenity. I think with the rise of community gardens, somewhere that along the line would be a huge amenity to the Newton Farm to have that in there. And to me, a half-acre community garden equals a 2-acre standard, let's throw up a pavilion and a slide and a swing set and a bunch of grass park. But I think what we're asking, and specifically what I'm asking is if you just want to line up the roads and try to jam as many lots in, we're probably going to be a little bit tougher on just the size of the lot. But if you want to get into some of these things, and I know park is the thing that's risen to the top, that that's where it's going to be. But I'm going to leave that up to you and your team, and you obviously know how to build neighborhoods, and so that's why I'm trying not to get too much into the park word or to any of these other things, but just basically saying we've established the baseline of in the city that we want larger lots and we want different type of housing and different type of amenities in our neighborhoods, and our staff has talked about a park, and that is one possible I think answer or solution to that. One thing I want to get to, and it's something that comes up a lot, and it's brought up tonight, and very anecdotally, to where some people's observations are one way and some people's observations the other way. But I just want to set the record straight on this when we get into the water argument. As someone that deals with water on a regular basis and water conservation, the money that we've spent and the studies that we've done says that there's actually water savings on lots when you get into 12,000 square foot lots up to a half an acre. And so I think we should just probably leave the water argument out of it, but I can tell you another fact is that in Granger Hunter Improvement District, 50% of the water is used in the house, 50% of the water is used out of the house. So if we really want to do water savings, we could just cut out some houses and get just as much savings as 1,000 or 2,000 foot on a lot here. To what I said is the savings are nil and negligible on that, and actually you get savings up at the 12,000 square foot level on that. But I do appreciate the thoughts on that, but I just want the council to know that if that is something that sways you in one point or another, that you'd probably be swayed to a larger lot and fewer houses at that point. So otherwise, I'll just leave it at that without going into too much, because going back to what he says, I think we're really close, and it sounds like there's some collaboration and some ideas on this, and you've taken enough efforts. But I will move to also to continue Ordinance 1430 to a date uncertain. And
that motion is before us. Do we have a second?
Second.
Councilman Young has a second. The motion is properly before us. Any discussion? Councilman Nordfeld.
Thank you. I just want to go on the record that I'm not against R110 zoning on this property. And I like the idea of mixing up some of the lot sizes and accommodating a park. And I appreciate everyone's efforts to make this work. I think we are close, and with the developers working together with our staff, we can come to a solution soon that will be best for our city.
Councilman Young.
Thank you, Mayor. I know you guys are very outstanding companies, developers. The reason why the Newton family, they pick you guys to do the job. They said earlier, Mary Jane, she mentioned about, she play back and forth and try to do very emotional, try to make decision and who's gonna take care of it, who's gonna do this piece of property. And they pick you to do this. I think it's congratulations to you, because you stand out so they can choose you to do this. At the same time, you understand we are planning for the city for the next 50 years. We're gonna have a lot of people are gonna move into our county, and we don't have that much land left over in our city. And we just recently, about 4 p.m. today, and 1 week ago we had a meeting about the standard how to work with the developers to build homes in our city and our requirement for the developers how to do that. And we also mentioned about 40% of brick in the project they want to do in our city. The reason why we're doing that is we want to have a quality of life, and we're not going to require you to do that, but we just work the same direction with you to build this city is a better city and try to have a quality of life in this city for a long time. And that's, I think we are heading at the same direction. And we just have a few things we need to work on together. I think we make it work. But again, and congratulations for your job doing with the Newton family.
Thank you. And I will add a couple of comments, and one of those, certainly, I think I need to go on record. I don't believe the master plan is perfect. City may not know that, but I just thought I'd tell them. I think it could be improved, including accommodating traffic, which I think has not been sufficient over the years. And if you don't believe that, you need to go drive on the streets. I also would say that if I had my own personal desire answered, R110, R112 would not happen, nor would a park. It would stay agriculture and be a farm. We are losing all of our farmland across this valley. I was not here in those discussions when it was brought to the city. I don't know what the requirements were or what caused that to fail. But boy, I'm sure going to try on the rest of them to see if we can keep those and keep them as open land, as farms. They will forever be appreciated in our city. The homes will be nice, don't misunderstand. I'm sure you'll build wonderful homes. I mean, you know your business. But I just wish that we had more open space and that we could keep these spaces where they are. And I know there's not any options now. Development agreement's been entered into, but so you know where I'm coming from. The only reason I stopped at 12,000 was because I knew if I went any further, no one would even listen. So you get a perspective of me, and I will champion open space in as many ways as I can in the city, whatever that role is. Thank you. Then further discussion, further comments? Seeing nothing, then we'll place the motion for a vote to continue ordinance number 14-30. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously. That brings us then to resolution number 14-90, development agreement on the same property.
Mayor, I move that we continue. I think this is resolution 1489.
90.
1490.
90, oh, I'm back to the old one.
Okay. We have a motion and we have a second, Councilwoman Lang, for resolution number 14-90 to be continued and heard in conjunction with ordinance number 14-30 when it is placed on the agenda again. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, we'll place it for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we move on to the next item of business, item number 9, application number PUD-4-2013, filed by Henry Walker Holmes, requesting final plat approval for Villages at West Ridge, Phase 2, 5600 West Lake Ridge Drive. Anything more we need to add to that?
No, sir.
Ben, we do not have a public hearing on this. It's to the council directly for comment and or discussion. Councilman Rushton.
Thank you. I'll add a comment and then make the motion on it. It's too bad the Newton family and all those are leaving, because I think this is actually a pretty good example in our city where a difficult piece of property came in and there was park issues, there was size of housing issues, there was transitory development issues, and it's been reworked and some creative solutions came to accommodate this piece to be developed. And where I wouldn't say it's perfect, it is light years ahead of where it actually started. And so therefore I would move I would move for approval of application PUD 4-2013.
Motion is before us. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilman Buhner. Any discussion to the motion? Bueller. Oh, I say Bueller.
You said Bueller. I was just thinking about previous business tonight, if it was recorded as Councilman Lang because of the sign in front of me. You're quick enough to make sure it's all okay.
Thank goodness for staff. Any discussion? Comments? Seeing none, we will place this for a vote. All in favor of approving application number PUD-4-2013, please say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. I believe we do not have a need for an executive session. Then we have concluded our regular city council meeting business. I'm getting this right now for these other meetings coming up. So we'll take a motion to end our regular city council meeting, but stay tuned. We have other meetings right after this.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. This city council meeting is adjourned.
I'll call to order the regular meeting of the West Valley City Redevelopment Agency here on Tuesday, June the 3rd. Note we've had an opening ceremony. The roll call has all board members present, with Acting CEO Paul Isaac joining us on the dais and City Recorder Sherry McKendrick. Item 4 is the approval of our May 6th regular meeting minutes, as well as our special regular meeting for May the 3rd, 2014, for your consideration.
I would move for approval of the minutes of May 6th and May 13th, 2014.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second to approve the minutes of our May 6th regular meeting and May 13th special regular meeting. Any discussion to that? If not, all those in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Those minutes are approved. Any communications or report from our Chief Executive Officer tonight?
No, sir.
Okay, then Mr. Isaac, will you introduce the public hearing tonight, which will be accepting public input regarding the reopening of our 2013-2014 fiscal year budget?
That's the correct way to say that, sir. It is to amend the budget of the redevelopment agency this fiscal year ending June 30th, 2014 to reflect those changes in the budget from increased revenues and expenditures.
Okay, it looks like there's 3, if I'm not mistaken, budget open changes tonight. Any need of clarification or questions on these 3 items? If not, a motion would be in order. Oh, I guess we need to open the public hearing.
Yeah.
Ralph, have you come to speak regarding the redevelopment agency? Okay. Seeing none, then we'll officially close the public hearing on that. And now the item is before the board.
I'll move for her approval of Resolution 1412.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve RDA Resolution 1412, amending the budget. Is there any discussion to that? Seeing none, we'll call the question and ask all those in favor to please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Mr. Isaac, do you want to introduce this year's budget and public hearing surrounded that?
Thank you. This is a resolution, also a public hearing to adopt the final budget for the redevelopment agency for fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2014 to the end of June 30th, 2015.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody come to speak on that? And seeing none, we'll close public input regarding our fiscal year 2014-2015 tentative budget and move to the action, which is Resolution 1413, adopting that budget.
Mr. Chair, looking at the resolution itself, it does say that it is a final budget, although the item on the agenda says tentative budget.
It is the tentative.
It is the tentative budget?
Well, my understanding is that people came to speak because it's tentative, but we're approving it because it's
And we're
final.
adopting the-
So it's tentative right now until somebody makes a
That's-
motion.
That is correct.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'll move for approval of resolution number 14-13.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Second?
Okay, we have a live motion before us to approve Resolution 1413, adopting the annual budget and turning it from tentative to the budget, final budget, I guess, yeah. Any discussion to that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion, budget carries unanimously. Now need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor of adjourning the RDA, say aye.
Aye.
This body stands adjourned. Thank you.
Call to order the regular meeting of the Housing Authority. Note that we've had an opening ceremony. Roll call shows all members of this body are present. We have minutes of May 6, 2014 for your consideration.
Chairman, move for approval of the minutes of May 6th, regular meeting.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It has passed unanimously. Do we have any communications or report, Mr. Acting Executive Director?
No, sir.
Then item number 7, would you please introduce that?
Yeah, this is the resolution to adopt the tentative budget that was approved earlier as the final budget for the Housing Authority for fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2014 and June 30th, 2015.
And we have a public hearing on that, so we'll open the public hearing. Any that have come to speak on the budget. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it to the body for action.
Motion to approve resolution number 14-03.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of approving this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Has passed unanimously. Item 8 is to adjourn, if anyone would care to make a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
I call to order the Building Authority regular meeting. Note that we've had an opening ceremony and that all are present, with Mr. Isaac filling in for Mr. Pyle. We're on item number 4, approval of our minutes of May 6, 2014 regular meeting.
Motion to approve.
I'll second. Thank you for the like mind.
We have a motion and a second. Is there some discussion on this? Then let's vote. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Any communications or report?
No, sir.
Then will you introduce item number 7, our public hearing?
Sure, I'm going to try to get this one right this time. The public hearing is to accept, the hearing before us is to accept input from the public for the tentative budget, and then the action the council will take at a particular time would be to approve, based on that public hearing comments, they approve and adopt the annual budget for the Building Authority of West Valley City for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2014 through the end of June 30th, 2015.
Thank you. So we now open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak to this budget?
We've been here long enough.
Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and open this to the council for a motion.
Motion to approve resolution number 14-03.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Would anyone like to discuss this item? Then, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are now adjourned.